How you guys doing? Welcome to Indoor Hydroponics. I'm John, your indoor hydroponic test dummy. Welcome inside my grow room. Guys, I want to do a little experiment because little experiments, cheap experiments, give me cheap thrills. Guys, today I want to grow some basil, or at least I want to start growing some basil because I like pesto. I like adding basil to all kinds of different Italian cooking, but specifically pesto. So I want to grow a lot of it. I'm going to do a few plants here and there, but I thought I would do a little experiment while we grow. What's going to be our potting media? Stuff over my shoulder. It's called Potter's Gold. Locally sourced. It's got peat moss, compost, humus. Got all the good stuff in it. It's inoculated with bacteria. It's also inoculated with fungi. So think like Happy Frog, Ocean Forest, only locally sourced, guys. Potter's Gold, Southwest Michigan. So if you get any kind of opportunity to buy local, I encourage that. That's good for our local businesses, obviously. So what is the experiment going to be? Obviously basil. Now, having sprouted some basil, I do know why people clone this stuff, because it takes forever to get to this point. I'm about 30 days into it, still at a very small seedling stage. As we know, basil is that summertime herb. It likes heat, likes humidity, likes moisture. So we got to kind of mimic that environment a little bit. But the experiment isn't going to be that. It's going to be CO2, and if adding some cheap CO2 to your plants promotes faster growth, more plant, more production, that type of thing. And what better to test it out on than some herb, basil herb. Alright, and I'm not talking about this stuff that you have to go into the hydroponics store and get the gas canisters and explode the house up with CO2. No, I'm talking about a simple yeast sugar mixture that can be replenished every few days, once a week type of thing during the grow. So let's do this to experiment and see if we get some faster growth with a couple of basil plants using homemade CO2. Alright guys, as with every good experiment, requires 4 similar specimens to test. 2 for the control group, 2 for the test group that's going to be given some additional CO2 during their grow. As we all know, if we've taken any kind of basic biology/science course, plants take in CO2 and return oxygen back to us. So logic would say extra CO2 given to the plant should promote faster growth, better production. But we're going to test it and see using simple yeast and sugar. But we have to pick our specimens out, and they got to be 4 equally ones. Like this one right here, I don't think that would be a good test subject because it's already kind of getting long and stringy. I think that one would be good. I think that one would be good. I think that one would be good. Okay, so these 4 are going to be the closest ones I got for the experiment. 30 days in, I will be cloning and cloning and cloning for summer herb grows. I can guarantee you that, but more on that later. Alright, let's get this experiment started, guys. 3-gallon container here, filled up with some of that perlite. Okay, that's to keep them stable. Also, any of the overrun water will go in there and keep the humidity up on here. Okay, and I want that because these guys like humidity. Secondly, 2 1-quart containers, 2 basil plants, 1 in each container. Potter's Gold potting soil. Okay, we're gonna have 2 of these setups identical. All right. The control obviously will be that they will have the same feeding, same lighting, same conditions. The only exception is one is going to get CO2 and one is not. Let's talk lighting for a quick second. T5. These are those good output T5 fluorescent bulbs, okay? 2 feet, there's 2 tubes in each one of them. They're going to get a 12-hour lighting regimen. I'm going to set them directly atop the plants. Okay, so 12 hours a day they're going to come on a timer. They're going to be set up exactly like this. I'm not going to hang them yet because I want the light to be as close to the seedlings as possible. At some point I'm obviously going to have to raise these things up. How am I going to get CO2 into it? Good question. First thing I'm going to do is lightly cover this with some tin foil. Now These things do breathe out the sides, so you don't want these things really tight, okay? I'm going to poke some holes along the sides, and I'm going to inject a hose in here, a little tube, 1/4-inch tube in there, which is going to disperse the CO2. And it's going to collect in there. I'm going to have some air holes in here, so the intent here is there's no aerations going in there, but CO2 is going to come in, but there's going to be plenty of air holes around it to let fresh oxygen and CO2 out, that type of thing. So that's going to be the general setup. Now remember, one of these is not going to be set up like this, okay? It's just going to have the light on it. No tin foil, no CO2. Of course, that's the experiment, so I'll stop repeating myself. Let's start injecting the hose. Now, I'm not much of an alcohol drinker. In fact, I don't drink alcohol at all because I drank enough of it in my 20s to last a lifetime. So I think for the remainder of my time on this planet, we'll do without and give my liver a rest. Regardless, that doesn't mean we cannot utilize beer-producing products, or better known as the beer growler, which holds beer. Alright, and it's a perfect CO2 containment device. Why? Because it's glass and it holds heat well. Secondly, it's tinted, and it's tinted dark. And why is that good? Because yeast doesn't like light. It kills it. So this is the perfect CO2 containment system. What I got going on in there is about halfway filled up with some boiled water that I let cool down to about 110 degrees. Alright, why did I boil it? Because I want to get some of the chlorine out of the tap water. I think chlorine might have a bad effect on yeast. I don't know. I have nothing to prove that. But I do it anyway. Regardless, about 110 degrees filled up halfway. From there I put in about a cup of sugar and about 1.5 tablespoons of yeast, and I have got a frothy little awesome goodness going on in there. What's happening is I've got a tube suspended in here. It's glued into the top here, and when the yeast eats the sugar within this substance, it farts out CO2, and it comes right out through this vessel here and into this device here. This lets me know that the yeast is alive and active by putting out that CO2. Comes up through here, goes out this tube, which is now going to go into our basil, and it's going to feed it CO2 like mad. Alright, so this should last a few days like this, and then go back up and change it out, that type of thing. So putting out some really good CO2 right now. We're about 2 hours into the process, and it has not stopped yet. This is what we're going to use to feed CO2 from now on. I'm so happy. Let's put it in play. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. We got it all set up. I'm going to put the line right in here and just kind of dangle it in there. And now it's just going to start feeding CO2 into this apparatus. That's right. I'm not growing it inside my grow room. I'm going to grow it outside my grow room using this T5. The other one will be a little bit of ways, okay, but I don't want any of the CO2 that's being generated over there to interfere with that grow. So CO2 versus non-CO2. Let's come back periodically and check on the progress. Here we are, guys, a couple of weeks in, and I just wanted to do a quick update on this. And here is our 4 specimens in our space race to the light. That one won. I actually let it go a little too far and it burned the leaves, but that's no big deal. I'll just pinch it back. It's actually good to pinch your basil back because that creates a bushier plant. And that's kind of what you want with basil, is you don't want like a one tall singular stem. You want to keep pinching it back type of thing. So I'm going to do that. But this is the one obviously with the CO2 here. Okay, so this one right here was fed with the CO2. This one wasn't. These plants are a little bit taller. And these plants are, they're beautiful, they're healthy. I don't see a huge significant difference myself in terms of, you know, weight, but we're still early. We're still early. I'm going to continue to do it. What I'm going to do is pinch all 4 of these back. and I'm going to continue on with this experiment. The growler has been working out absolutely fantastic. Went 7 days without a change, so that's pretty good, man. So you can go a whole week without refilling for CO2. So guys, let me know what you think on this. I'm going to keep going on it. I'm going to pinch them back, and I'm going to try to clone the tops, okay? I'm going to try to clone the tops. So we're going to turn this from 4 plants to 8 plants, hopefully, here on Indoor Hydroponics. Guys, take care. As always, let me know what you think. Come back for part 2. We'll see what happens. Peace. How you guys doing? Welcome to Indoor Hydroponics. I'm John, your indoor hydroponic test dummy. Going to do a non-original video here because there's plenty of videos out there. I'm just going to give it a try with my method here of cloning / propagating basil plants. That's right, we can multiply basil plants relatively quickly, simply, easily. What I have going on right here are some Genovese basil. I got 4 of them going right now. I got a close-up on 2, and I'm doing an experiment in here, CO2 versus non-CO2 fed basil plants. But they've already grown a little too tall. I want to continue in my bucket experiment here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pluck or pinch them back, and what will happen is new shoots will come out, and you'll get a bushier type basil plant, and that's really what you want. So you want to start this process relatively early into your basil plant grow. It won't hurt the plant. In fact, it'll create more and more shoots, and that's a good thing. So what I'm going to do is pinch the tops back, and then we're going to turn these, and we're going to multiply our basil plants. That's right, we're going to clone them. So let's do it, guys. Fairly simple, non-original, but here's how I'm going to do it. Welcome back to the continuing saga of CO2 versus non-CO2, the basil grow. Alright guys, what I ended up doing here was topping these things off, alright, and I'm also cloning the tops. So this is all that's left here, alright. Looks like a massacre, but believe me, it is.